I'm going to go ahead and say that at the channel, it goes Nike, Adidas, and then I think Converse. I think Converse makes up the third biggest batch of videos at this channel. By chance, I don't really think about it. All I do is I go through a bunch of stuff and look at what's upcoming and say, you know what, that's a good looking sneaker. I want to talk about that at the channel. And it turns out that Nike dominates the market. Go figure. And then Adidas after that. But I think maybe Converse comes in next. And Bandulu, tying it up with Bandulu and Converse, we go right here. Ding, there's the Kyrie's 5s, Bandulus, which I did for probably 18 months ago, quite a long time ago, did that shoe. And then here we are today with these guys. Ding, we're back with two tie-ups. Now, Converse and Bandulu did tie-ups about 5-6 years ago. I think it was 2015, especially on the Chuck 70 side of things. And that Chuck 70 is echoed in today's Chuck 70, but not exactly held true. And then also you've got the Pro Leathers, which is a very new looking shoe, very new to the line. Hints of Timberland, maybe. But we're going to have a look at those two shoes today, take you through all the branding on them, give you some insight into the different parts of both shoes as we take a close-up look at the upcoming release of the Converse Chuck 70 Pro Leather Bandulu. This is the Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channel. Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channel des.毎日 upstream all day, 毎日見てください. And every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And I'm so hopeful. This is the first of 3 videos that I'm shooting back to back, and I'll be ahead of the game for the first time in something like 2.5 months. I've been right on the limit, shooting videos the day they go up, and I've managed to keep that daily content going on YouTube. And if I can get these 3 videos shot today, it will give me just a little bit of breathing room that I haven't had for the longest time. And I'm really hopeful that I'll be able to do that today and bring a little bit of stress out of life, a little bit more relaxation to this YouTube business and the stress and the chase of that daily grind. So that's where we are at the channel. But here we are today with these shoes. Now I'm going to jump to the promo picture before we get to the shoes. This is one of the promo pictures that I've seen out there, and you've got the shoe on one side, but I hope it's on the left side. It sometimes gets flipped out on the green screen, but I think it'll be on the left side here. There's something about this that just really catches my eye, or it does it for me. I don't know what it is, but the whole idea is like it's like the shell of the basketball being stripped away to reveal another basketball below, like a snake shedding its skin or something, that rebirth feeling. There's just something about that image of that basketball there that really does it for me as part of the branding drive, the promotional materials drive from this tie-up between the Converse line and Bandulu. Now, we will get into all the details of it, but just a quick thing about Bandulu is that one of their main features is to do with kind of splatter or embroidery and getting kind of a second layer on the top of things, not just shoes, but any other elements of their the company's products. And that's one of the things we'll be getting into today with the Bandulu side of things, and also looking at the branding positioning, because there's interesting branding positioning on both shoes in different places, which kind of surprised me. So first things first, we're going to go down that Chuck 70, and then we'll jump over to those Pro Leathers. So Chuck 70, looking at it from big out wide, caffeine canvas. That's what I've read makes up the top of this upper on these guys. Caffeine, not sure. Oh no, it's not caffeine, it's cappuccino. That's what it is. It's not cappuccino. Not a coffee drinker. Apologies to 99% of the people in the world who are coffee drinkers, but it's a cappuccino brown colorway that they're going with on the top of these guys. And at first glance, it looks like a very simple shoe, very simple Chuck 70 in the standard sort of design with the standard piece of branding on the side. But there are 3 particular things I know about for sure that are hot on the shoe, and one that I'm absolutely sure is hot, but I can't be perfectly sure about. So first things first is we'll get into that branding that I told you about with Bandulu, that what they like to do is embroider a second layer on top of things. Now, out wide, looking at the shoe as we are right now, it would be easy for you to assume that all that spatter is paint somehow painted or pressed onto the shoe, but what it is, and we'll be zooming in on it, is actually embroidered on there, and that's the kind of feature that goes with Bandulu's design for many things, not just shoes. So zoomed in right around the high part of the shoe. Now, for some reason, I mean, it's their choice, but they went with different positionings of these embroidered splatter marks on the Chuck 70s and the Pro Leathers. So in the case of these Chuck 70s, it starts up high, and we're probably zoomed in on that on the green screen, and then as you drop down the sort of back half of the shoe past the branding disc, which surprised me, is on top of the design design feature. I thought maybe they could have put the splatter through the branding disc, but they didn't. But anyway, down from that and then into the lower half of the upper and on into the midsole. It's one of the main features and distinctions between these two shoes, the Pro Leathers and the Chuck 70s, is that splatter effect goes all the way down from the collar at the very top all the way down to the midsole at the bottom. Of course, on the midsole it's not embroidered because that would be weird, but it still has that effect running the whole length of the shoe. So that's a major feature number one on these guys. Major feature number two, and I had to work really hard to get any kind of shot of this, so it's not a great picture, but you'll see that Bandulu branding up on the tongues there, and when we get to the Pro Leathers you'll see a difference there, but it's very big lettering, just Bandulu, with nothing really major going on as far as icons or branding like that. It's just the name embroidered up there at the top of the tongues, and then you come down from that onto the lacing. I call these off pink laces. That's just me. I'm not pulling that from websites or anything. That's just my take on these laces. But then you get to my favourite sort of feature of the shoe, which is really worth pointing out. And like I say, it's a third of the three things: the embroidering, the splatter, the tongue branding. And then down on the toe, I just really dig that piping that runs around the front. Often with Converse, you'll see the front section all in one colour with that kind of rubberized toe and the midsole wrapping around there and then onto the outsole. But with these guys, that little bit of brown piping that runs around the front end of the shoe, I think it adds a bit of definition and takes these shoes to another level. So that's all the sort of obvious stuff about these shoes, but then there's one angle here of the outsole that I'll show you right here, and it's like, whoa man, I wish we had a frontal straight on, like, you know, dead eyes right in the camera view of these guys, because it looks like there's something interesting going on the outsole of these Chuck 70s. So definitely want to get these in hand and have a close-up look. But like we say at the channel all the time, this channel is all about upcoming sneaker releases, not about already released shoes, and these guys are scheduled to come in a limited release on February the 11th and then a wider release on February the 18th. So hopefully somewhere around there we'll get a better view of these outsoles, because there's something funky going on there and it looks really, really good. And what also looks really, really good is we flip it out and go over to those the Converse Leather Pros on the other side. Now, like I said, you know, I know a lot about Nike, quite a lot about Adidas. Converse comes in third. I know, you know, a bit about Converse, but not a lot. So if I'm getting stuff wrong on these, you know, definitely hit us up with a comment down below. I'd love to learn at the channel. I'd love people out there to correct me and tell me if I've got something wrong, especially when I'm looking at shoes and things like these Pro Leathers. And I'll give you some hits on that Bandulu first, and then we'll get into the structure of the shoe itself. So first things first, we go look high up on that collar at that same sort of feature, the splatter paint effect going on up there, but this time it's held very much in the collar. Like I said, on the Chuck 70s it runs all the way down into the midsole, but on these guys they keep it really, really high up on the collar, and then if you go all the way to the other end of the shoe down to the toe, you see splatter effect there too, but not really much in between. So they've gone with two distinct places on the Pro Leathers, whereas on the Chuck 70s it sort of ran the full length of the back half of the shoe. But what is interesting on the 70s is you will see the Bandulu branding is not on the tongue, and it's hard for me to show a picture of this. Again, it's really hard with these. They're not like the sort of, I don't know, official images. That's the word I'm looking for. They're more kind of stylized design images, so it's hard for me to get the right shots for you guys. But this one here, you'll see hopefully that the tongues on there have a mismatch effect, where the branding on the left shoe and the branding on the right shoe are different colors, although the same structure. And the other thing about all of this is it isn't Bandulu branding up there, up high on the tongues. It's standard Converse branding up there, which is kind of a departure from those Chuck 70s. But what is branding is if you come down into around about the midsection of the midfoot, and you see two bits of branding on there. One is because these guys are a leather. Now I read suede, wheat. I'm not really feeling the suede side of things. I think these are more just straight up leather, or maybe some kind of soft leather. I might be wrong in that. It might be suede for all I know, but it just doesn't feel like suede to me. But what I read was suede wheat, or wheat suede, whichever way you want to look at it. But either way, it's a natural leather based material, whether it's suede or nubuck or leather itself. And what that lends itself to is debossing, bonk, and you can see that right on the side here, the Bandulu branding really imprinted, debossed into the shoe, and that's right beside the Converse star on these guys. And one thing that I think is kind of interesting, and I actually agree with it, usually I wouldn't, but I agree with it, that it's in the same color as the colorway itself. So you've got the star in wheat, and then the whole upper in wheat as well. So that gives you, you know, they could have gone with some darker contrast on there. If you go up to the tongues and around to the heel, you see that there is contrast contrast between the actual upper and then the branding and a darker brown. So they could have had that darker brown on the star on the side, but instead going with the same wheat. But I think it kind of works, so it works for me. So there's our two shoes today, the Chuck 70s from Bandululu, and then also the Pro Leathers tying up Bandululu, and Converse again for the first time in about 6 years. Like I said, the Kyrie 5s, Nike did it with them a couple of years ago, so they're always sort of, but those Bandululu and Kyrie 5s kind of sat here in Japan anyway. Don't know about overseas, you know, they might not have sat overseas, but they kind of sat here, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with these two pairs of shoes tying up between Bandululu and Converse. So guys, that's the end of the video today. Appreciate you guys checking in. Hope you appreciate the content. I always try and keep going. Hopefully we've got video number 1 out of the way, and we'll jump into video number 2. I can't remember which one it is. I have 2 Nike videos lined up. One is it's an up-tempo, which is an interesting shoe because I had to research it because it's not in my wheelhouse, if you know what I'm saying. And then the other one is another Nike, but I've forgotten what it is. But I'll be bringing those 2 videos over the next 2 days as well, and hopefully getting ahead of the game on the content. So for now, it's time for me just to sign off. Thank you guys for checking out that content, and I'll remind you that I do this every single day, and that means you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.